was released in 2003 and is a Bollywood slasher film. And in this movie, a college campus is being attacked by a serial killer and a group of friends try to find out who it is before the killer gets them. Happy Halloween, everybody. Hopefully you get to dress up as your favorite characters. Here from my costume, I am none other than John Cena. Hopefully you can see me for this review, but hopefully you got all the candy you wanted. Now, I was trying to decide what movie to review, and I looked up a bunch of Bollywood horror films because it's been way too long since I've talked about a Bollywood horror film, and this was a slasher film, and those are my favorite type of horror movies, so I came into this movie blind. I had never seen this movie before, and let's talk about this. So this movie starts with a character named Malini playing squash, and let's just say that the opening scene is very eye-catching. Look, I know Bollywood movies can be goofy, but even that is too ridiculous for Bollywood. So this opening scene is very reminiscent of the movie Scream, and I've noticed when watching this movie that this was Bollywood trying to make their own version of Scream / How Know What You Did Last Summer. They kind of did that with Kuch To Hai, so I don't know why the 2000s, early 2000s, the whole slasher craze was big again, and Bollywood tried to capitalize on it, but they didn't really do a good job of it. So this opening scene, they're trying to recreate that Drew Barrymore suspenseful scene, and they just didn't do a good job of it. I mean, there's a lot of things that are just so unrealistic. Like, take, for instance, in this chase scene, like, there's a clown right there, and the cop doesn't see him, and Malini doesn't see him. So I'm like, it's just small things like that that didn't make this scene that suspenseful for me. Like, he's right there. How can you not notice him? I get it, in a horror movie, you know, you kind of have to suspend your disbelief, but at the same time, how dumb can characters be? Anyways, at the end of the scene, she does die in a pretty decent death. Now, the practical effects actually look really good, but the problem is, this movie, they keep cutting away from it nonstop, and we don't get to see the nice carnage candy, which makes horror movies so much fun. This movie then cuts to 6 months later, and we meet up with our new main character, Mehek, who is played by Tanisha Mukherjee, who is best known for being Kajal's sister. She was okay in this movie, but the biggest problem that I have with her character is that she needs help. Like, she needs therapy immediately because everything triggers a traumatic response for her. If she's in class, it triggers a traumatic experience that she had in the past. If she's talking with friends, triggers a traumatic experience in the past. If somebody says, oh, I've had parents, it triggers a traumatic experience for her. So it's like, this lady needs help, and it also doesn't help that her friends are some of the worst characters I have ever met. So like I said, we meet our other group of characters, and I had no idea Dino Maria was in this movie. Very underrated actor in my opinion, so that was a welcome sight to see. But the problem I have is that I hate his character. He plays the stereotypical jock character who's a jerk to everybody, yet we're supposed to pull for him in some cases, yet in some scenes he's like the red herring as the overall killer. But I just didn't like his character because, like I said, he was just a bully, a jock, and at the end, he becomes the good guy. So it's like, how am I supposed to pull from him? How am I supposed to pull for him at the ending of the movie when throughout the entire runtime of the film, you made him look like the bad guy, and he is such a jerk to cops, to friends. I don't understand why anybody would be friends with him. But of course, we meet another person in this friend group. For those of you who haven't been with my channel long, I reviewed a movie called Darna Mana Hai, and it was very controversial because I don't like that movie. I think it's terribly paced, I hate the characters, I hate the killings, the stories, it all sucks in my opinion. But people, y'all got really upset about that. I don't really care because I don't like that movie. But the fact that I had to look at his face for another 3 hours really bothered me. And yeah, it kind of ruined my viewing experience because, again, he's such a terrible character. He plays the same character as he did in Darna Mana Hai, just the smart aleck who makes a bunch of stupid jokes, and he's not an enjoyable character to be around. So I very much looked forward to his death scene. What made me laugh early in this movie is that in that 6 months later scene, Mehek is in the store and she gets a phone call from the killer saying, I'm gonna kill you like I killed your sister, I see what you're wearing. Okay, she hangs up and she looks behind and we meet our other main character, Suraj, and he's by the phone, and in this he's supposed to be framed as the innocent guy in this because he was trying to return her purse, but he was literally looking at her like a killer, like he was like looking at her like that, and I'm like, of course you're gonna look like the villain here. I'm completely on Mehek's side in this. And what makes me upset about these characters is Mehek's best friend. Literally 24 hours after she gets this phone call from the killer, she's like, I'm just really stressed out. He's out there, he's looking to kill me. And her best friend is like, let it go. It's probably just some guy making a joke. Even so, she is clearly stressed out and you're saying, just forget about it. What kind of horrible friend are you? So that scene where her friend was saying, forget about it, that happens in the next scene. They're in the bathroom and then this auntie comes to talk to her and that auntie's acting was atrocious.
Shameful? Very shameful? Are you okay, child?
It's so bad. So anyways, the auntie has a death scene and it's really well done. She looks through all the bathroom stalls and she gets stabbed through the freaking eye. But the problem is you don't let the kill breathe. You barely get to see the kill. All you see is just droplets of blood and then you immediately go to the next scene. That's not good pacing in my opinion. You gotta let the kill breathe. You gotta let us digest what we just saw. There's no suspense. There's no horror. It's really just a stab through the eye and then immediately fade to the next scene. To me, that's not what makes a good horror movie. Oh yeah, by the way, the lead detective in this movie is none other than Mr. CID himself. What a welcome sight. That was pretty cool to see him in this movie. I actually didn't know he did a lot of films, so it was a nice change of pace to see him on the silver screen. And since we're on the subject, let's talk about how he investigates crimes. The teacher gets murdered, and for some reason the students are allowed near the crime scene, and literally the cops are going one by one randomly to people like, where were you an hour ago? Where were you an hour ago? And he's like, well, come here. Your shoe size is 9, right? Why don't you match up with this bloody footprint? That's such terrible police work because the other inspector's like, sir, I think there's a lot of students here with a size 9 shoe. Yeah, obviously, no doy. That's such terrible police work. Like, how about you talk to Mehek, who was the last person to see the teacher alive? Just absolute boneheaded police work. And again, it makes this movie even stupider than it already is. Now we get our next major chase scene in the following scene, and it's at Mehek's house. And look, I get it, they tried to make it all suspenseful and a lot of horror and scary. I'm sorry, this chase scene was so goofy, it looked like it came straight out of Scary Movie. This is where I also get upset again, because Suraj is framed as the killer, just like in Scream, and he's in jail, and she's very upset that the guy she likes turns out to be the killer. And then in the next scene, all her friends are like, hey, we're hosting a party. Why don't you come over? And her mom is so adamant, like, no, Mehek, go to the party. Go to the party. Even though Mehek is saying, I don't want to go to the party. Literally, the guy I like turned out to be a killer. Why would I want to go anywhere? And the mom's like, no, go, go, go. Mother of the year, everybody. If my child literally had a near-death experience 24 hours ago, I would not let her out of my sight whatsoever. Terrible characters, terrible script. Let's move on. So we cut to the party and there's a song. It's not that great in my opinion. Although some of the songs in this are really good. I particularly just didn't like that song. But Rocky is being super flirtatious with Mehek. And it's like, dude, it's not okay. And the reason why is because literally 24 hours ago, she was almost murdered. And y'all are just acting like nothing is wrong. Oh my god, these characters are so stupid! Finally, that scene ends, and then Mehek and her friend are on the road, and she gets a call from the killer saying, haha, Suraj wasn't the actual killer, you idiot. And all of a sudden, the killer is just in the middle of the road, and they crash. What is happening? So then the killer tries to kill Mehek, and then all of a sudden, Suraj shows up with CID himself, and I'm like, what is going on? Now, they explained how they got there, because there was a student that had an alibi for Suraj. They were like, oh, he was with me doing homework, fine, whatever. That doesn't explain the fact that how did they know they were under the bridge the entire time? That is absolutely so stupid and it's so unbelievable. Now the killer gets shot and falls into the ocean and the cops determine that, oh, the killer died and we just need to find his body. Now when they fish out the body, they find that it's another student, but obviously the killer framed that other student because he killed that student, put his clown outfit on him, dumped him in the ocean, fine. I gotta admit, that was actually a really good reveal. It was a good red herring, so I gotta give credit where credit is due for the movie. So the friends decide, hey, look, Mehek needs a vacation, why don't we all go to Thailand, okay? Now, while they're in Thailand, Mehek's mom actually gets murdered by the killer, and that actually was a really sad scene, because I actually really did like the mom in this movie, except she made really boneheaded decisions, but again, I think overall she was a decent character. But the killing was actually really sad, and I think it was very well done. But again, we didn't see the murder, we didn't see the practical effects. It was just knife slash and then cut to blood splatter. Come on, movie, give me something! What really bothered me is that the cops were talking, and CID was talking to the inspector, and he goes, well, where's Mac? And he goes, oh, she's out of town. She's actually in Thailand. How do you know that? Now, if you haven't seen this movie, spoiler, obviously, but like, he's not the killer. But how did you know she was in Thailand? It only would have made sense if he was the killer. But because he wasn't revealed to be the killer, how did you know she was in Thailand? They hadn't talked to the mother all day. Hence why later, when they went to Mehek's house, they saw her mom was dead. They're like, oh my God, she's dead. They hadn't been able to contact her. So again, how did he know that they were in Thailand? That makes no sense, movie. In Thailand, the group actually gets kicked out of a hotel because Rocky sucks, as usual. So then they decide to just take a speedboat and go to a random island and stay there for the rest of the trip. Again, how stupid can these characters be? Also, when they get to the island, they literally made a Kahona Pyar joke because that island looked suspiciously similar to the island that Hrithik Roshan was on, and I am 100% convinced that they only showed the island scene just to make that Kahona Pyar joke. That's the only reason, and it wasn't even that good of a joke. This is where the movie really loses me. Okay, so Rocky is determined to tell Mehek that he loves her. Now, when he goes into her room, it turns out Genna is there, who is Mehek's best friend, like I said. And all of a sudden, Rocky's like, hey, I need to talk to Mehek. And then Genna just starts making out with him and straight up sexually assaulting Rocky. That is not okay. And all of a sudden, she reveals that she has loved Rocky from the beginning. Again, it makes no sense because she never showed any affection towards him whatsoever. They barely had any interaction in this movie. Yet all of a sudden she loves him and now she's jealous of Mehek. Again, how are these people friends? They all hate each other. None of them have anything in common with each other, and yet they're all best friends. It just makes no sense. These characters are not believable. These friendships are not believable. So again, it makes the movie not believable. Like, the only reason they made Genna jealous of Mehek was just to make her a red herring. Oh, maybe she's a possible killer. But again, it makes no sense because she was in the car when they crashed. Why would she risk herself to get possibly killed? Just to get at Mehek, or just to swerve her the wrong way? Again, makes no sense. She's not the killer, by the way. It was just a stupid red herring that they put in this movie because they wanted us to be like, oh, maybe she's the killer. She's not, movie. We're not stupid. So they all decide to explore the island, but the problem is Genna decides to stay back because she got injured during a soccer match, so she's like, oh, my leg hurts, whatever. So while they're exploring the island, the killer comes back and strangles her, and that's actually a very well done scene. Very tense, and like, I gotta admit, it was actually pretty horrific to watch her, die because of strangulation. But the problem I have is, why did the killer come back in full clown outfit? That's just so impractical that, like, you're literally walking and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'll be right back, and then you run, put on your clown outfit just to strangle her. Again, very impractical. In my opinion, not great script writing, but again, let me just move on. When Mehek finds Genna's body, the killer comes back to try to kill her. She goes into the annoying friend's house, and the annoying friend from Dharna Manahe is like, oh, don't worry, you'll be fine. And then it looks like that the annoying friend finally dies, and I gotta tell you, I was shouting. I was like, yes, he's dead. Finally, let's move on. I love this movie now. That was actually a pretty cool scene, but again, the gore, it wasn't shown. Please, show something. I'm already having a terrible time. I know I keep saying it, but give me something. Now, this is where the movie really lost me. Okay, like, completely loses me. So they're stranded on the island because the boat is gone, and they're like, oh my God, what are we going to do? And they're all like, I got an idea. They build a raft and plan to sail this raft across the ocean to find land. Oh my God, and the problem is that the raft was literally like a 4x4 block of wood, and there's like 8 people on this raft. It makes no sense. How stupid are these characters? Obviously, the raft falls apart and they all fall in the ocean. Now, one of the girls, the one who has a boyfriend who's obsessed with his motorcycle, okay, she actually gets her throat slit. Now again, it makes no sense how they didn't see her because they all were underwater looking, trying to find her, and her throat gets slit. How did nobody see the killer? How did nobody see her? Again, makes no sense. But I will say the kill was done well. I like that we got to see her throat slit and her eyes being open the entire time as she's dying. Very haunting. It's burned in my memory. I'm probably gonna have nightmares. And then the movie gets really stupid because they decide to recreate that scene from I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Come on! Come and get me! सुना तुमने? मगर मैं यहाँ नहीं मरने वाली! सुना तुमने? मैं यहाँ नहीं मरने वाली! I'm not gonna die today!
Oh. Okay, so bear with me here because there's a lot that happens in the next like 5 minutes, okay? So the other guy gets murdered. The guy who's obsessed with the motorcycle. He ends up dying, okay, off screen, which sucks. Then all of a sudden the two inspectors show up, okay? They show up by speedboat and they're like, we're gonna find out who the killer is, we're gonna interrogate, okay? Then we cut to the night and then we cut to the next morning, okay? All of a sudden CID is murdered, off screen again, and then the other inspector dies and the killer is revealed to be... Yeah, Suraj saw that coming. But there is a second killer revealed, and it is... Okay, look, I know I've been giving this movie crap for the majority of this video, but I will say, I did not see that second reveal coming at all. That was actually very good storytelling right there. And I also love the motives of the killers in this movie, because if you watch the movie, you'll understand why they did what they did. It's really good. I enjoyed that part. It actually did make the movie a little bit more enjoyable when you don't know who the killer is. I knew who the first killer was going to be. I had no idea who the second killer was going to be. Good job. Shh. I'll give you credit. But look, I still hate that character and I still hate Darnamanahe. Luckily, that character does die because Rocky blows his head off. Holy crap, what a kill. Easily my favorite of the movie, and then Suraj does die after a long battle, and then the movie ends. Okay, look, I'll be honest. I do not like this movie. I think it's terribly paced. I hate the characters. They're all very one-dimensional, very stereotypical. I think the acting isn't really that well done, but I do like the killers, and I like the killers' motives. But again, like I said, the characters are not that interesting, and this movie is way too long at 2 hours and 40 minutes. Look, if this movie was a tight 145, I would have happily liked this movie a lot more. But then again, this is old school Bollywood where every movie had to be 3 hours long. You had to get songs in there. And there were a couple of songs I liked in this movie. But in a horror movie, I feel like songs aren't necessarily needed, even though some of them I really do like. If this movie was a tight 145 or maybe an hour and 30, this movie would have been way more enjoyable. But like I said, because I love the reveal of the killers and their motives, I'm gonna give Shh a C+. I feel really bad giving it a C+ because I do love horror movies, and I feel Bollywood is actually getting a lot better with their horror movies, but there's just something about slashers where Bollywood, it just doesn't click for them. They're really good at ghost movies, those paranormal movies, demon movies. I think they're getting better and better with each release. But there's just something about slasher movies that Bollywood really struggles with. But I'm waiting for a really good slasher film. There may be only 1 or 2 I can think of that I actually find enjoyable. But for this movie specifically, I'm going to stick by my grade of C+. Guys, thank you so much for watching this review. If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. Hope you have a happy Halloween. I'll see you next time.